Hello, my name is Steven Loera, and this is my presentation on summative writing for Spanish language arts, my lesson on backward design. So I really like the idea of a backward design lesson. As a new teacher, I sort of feel like I'm just above water when it comes to lesson planning. And in hindsight, now that I'm almost 2 months in, I'm starting to set goals and then scaffolding to see how I'm going to reach those goals. So one lesson that I've created that I plan on using in my class is I want students to be able to write a 5-paragraph summative writing piece using proper accentuation and incorporating at least 5 of the 8 vocabulary words. So being able to accent words that need the accent marking in Spanish for my Spanish language arts is really important. So my learning objective is that by the end of the lesson, students will be able to write a 5-paragraph summative writing piece using proper accent markings and incorporating at least 5 of 8 vocabulary words. The standards I'm addressing is to determine or clarify the meaning of unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases based on 7th grade reading and content. These words are going to be specific to summative writing. Also to write informative explanatory text and examine a topic to convey ideas, concepts, and information using the selection, organization, and analysis of relevant content. So Spanish language arts, I'll be some type of writing piece or some type of probably I'm choosing a relevant topic to students. That way it's more engaging and fun for them. So the measurement of learning outcome will be to ensure that the 5-paragraph response meets the criteria discussed and practiced in class. So it's including the use of accent markings and word requiring those marks. So overall, the artifact that I'll be collecting will be the 5-paragraph response from students. So the materials I'll be using, signal word charts that I already have set up in the classroom, a framed outline for the 5-paragraph response, computer with internet access, a PowerPoint that I've actually already created with the 9 rules for accents in Spanish. Aside from that, I'll be using butcher paper for when students and I do the vocabulary, and the projector and the whiteboard. So before the lesson starts, I have there that I'll create a signal word chart, which I already have. I'll create an outline of a 5-paragraph essay, so the framed outline will be in place so that students can simply just put their responses in. This is also an accommodation for students with certain disabilities like reading. I will also provide a novel, a short story that students will use to summarize, and then as a teacher I will provide direct instruction on the use of accent marks. Very beginning of the lesson, I plan to engage the students by showing them the importance of proper accents. So for example, in Spanish, if you say papa, that means potato. If you say papa with an accent on the last A, that means father. I used this last year and it was engaging and students had a good time with it. They looked for words on their laptops. And it was fun for them. So then as a class, I will model for them by reading out loud a short story and taking notes on the projector or the document reader to demonstrate what I consider to be important. That way students start to see and realize that you don't have to underline everything. You're only underlining keywords, for example. As I progress through the short story, I'll have students participate more to include what they would highlight and why. They might work in small groups to do this and then share the responses overall. And then I will, as students are responding, fill in the writing graphic organizer to help us organize our thoughts as a collective whole. And then students will help teacher as a class overall. For accent markings, I will provide direct instruction on rules for when to accent words. Students will take notes on these rules. As a teacher, I will model pronunciation and implementation of the rules for the entire class to see on the board. I'll provide examples, underline the syllable with the emphasis, and then as a class we can go over what type of word it is, whether it's aguda, estrújula, or grave, and determine whether it requires an accent mark or not. Then as a class, or in small teams, I'll have students classify words and add markings if needed. Students can compete by putting their responses and classifying the words on the board and separating them into categories. For guided practice, for the vocabulary, there's this big spreadsheet. I put the words on one side, and students do the same in their journal. Students and teachers will classify the words according to the accent markings, whether it's grave, aguda, or estrújula. Teacher will give students post-its and have them predict the definitions of these words. Then the students will guess the definitions and have volunteers place the predictions near the words. I can go over them, see who was near or accurate in their definition or their prediction. The teacher will provide the actual definition. Then students will create an illustration to help process the word as well as a sentence using the word correctly. The last two will be done for homework. For the summative writing, students can work in pairs to read a short story and complete another graphic organizer. Students will then discuss in small groups the main points of the story to make sure we're all on the same page. As a teacher, I'd be walking around, engaging groups in conversation to ensure that they're on task and focused. And then the class will create an overview and guide to be used to construct the essay. Checking for understanding, like I mentioned, I'll be walking around the classroom, talking to students. I will also have students present their markings on a large presentation note paper to check for understanding, and we can go over any overarching errors that I see or any things that I see often as being problematic in the classroom. And then independent practice, students will read a short story in their literature circles, individually taking notes. Students will then draft and fill in their own graphic organizer independently this time, and essentially they will create a 5-paragraph summative response using signal words created by the students and applying accent marks when necessary. And then the expectation will be that students will use 5 of the 8 vocabulary terms that we've discussed as a class. And finally, assignments and homework. Assignments, I've gone through them in the PowerPoint already, but for homework I'd have the students complete the drawings for the vocabulary and use of the words in one sentence, and to teach one of the accent rules to a parent or guardian. I went through this pretty fast, but it was extensive and exhaustive. If you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to log on and check the actual long form of the lesson. Otherwise than that, thank you very much, everybody.